Monaco 64, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So live stream, central banking, the courage to plunder. So it's 9 p.m. London time. Markets are closing right now, U.S. markets. And lo and behold, gold just closed on the lows of the day at 1,300 exactly. Market been traded fairly well most of the day, and yeah, we've seen the central bankers bring the market down. Hi everyone, good evening, Sergio Senna. How are you? So why did I pick the title central banking, the courage to plunder? Well, it's a play on Ben Bernanke's book, which is called The Courage to Act, a memoir of a crisis and its aftermath. So it's a book by Ben Bernanke where he talks about how he had to be courageous in order to print money to save the system. And I find that quite ironic that you need courage to plunder, because that's what central banks do. So how are you doing here? We've got 25 people on. I'm going to look at quite a few books. I'll wait a little bit for people to come on for this live stream on this Friday evening here in London. The first book I'm going to look at is What Has Government Done to Our Money by Murray Rothbard, because I think people really need to understand what government has done to money and what money is before they can understand why central banking is such a unnatural institution, in my opinion. Good evening, Sven. Ben Morris, hi. Gold doing okay in GBP, given Carney mentioned he'll do whatever it takes if the economy tanks because of Brexit. Yeah, I mean, the pound has been dropping quite sharply the last few weeks. So yeah, we made a fairly good level today, around 1980 in pounds. But yeah, and I've been looking at the market this evening, and yeah, it's amazing how towards the end of the day they just bring the price of gold down for the close. It's just on 1,300 now, the low of the day. It's very frustrating, but I think that's what they want to do. We shouldn't really focus on the price. That's not good of me, because gold is real money, of course. So let's see. Good evening, El Tomo. Good evening, Mario. Just bought the book on Amazon. Great. Yeah, I really recommend that. Luke Hammond. Guten Abend. Guten Abend. Luke. Silver Granny. Good evening, Mario. Good evening, Silver Granny. Philip Leach, hi from New Zealand. Beautiful Saturday morning. Yeah, I guess you must be almost at least 10 hours ahead. I know Eastern Australia is 10 hours ahead. It must be about 11 or 12, I guess. Jay Allegre, hi Mario, good evening. Can you tell us a little bit about concerning situation in Italy? Could it be another Brexit? Yeah, I've read a little bit about the situation in Italy. I don't think it's going to be another Brexit because I think the coalition government in Italy, they're trying to get traction. They're gonna, they're trying to kind of blackmail the EU. And they've said, we're not going to try to leave the EU or even the euro, which is something different. But we do want Italy to be able to print treasury bills, like bearer bonds that can be used as money, and it wouldn't be in euro. And so I'm not sure what will happen there. I saw that today as well. There's some political crisis going on in Spain, that they're going to have probably confidence vote for the government. So yeah, not only did Italian government bonds spike higher today, they ended up 6 basis points, the 10-year at 246. They were up as high as 256, and I assume the ECB, and The manipulators came in before the end of the week and bought the Italian bonds. They still finished down on the day. The Spanish bonds now are as well. They were up 7 basis points. They finished at 147. They were up as high as 153. So I think there will be a lot of manipulation and intervention. So let's see here. David Buckner. Hi, Bud. Hi, David. Hi, David BB. Grim Fandango, could you comment on the big rise in silver? It's the highest it's been since January. Well, actually, Fandango, I don't think it's a huge rise, really. If you look at silver for the last 2 years, it's been in a dollar range. I remember silver trading $1 in one day. So I wouldn't, yeah, silver's doing all right, but it's still, below $17. I like to see it do better than gold. It's starting to do better than gold, but nothing to write home about yet. James D. Hi, Mario. 6 a.m. here in the Gold Coast, Australia. Hey, James D. Nice to see you. Mario is the Wes Anderson of financial commentators. I have to say, I don't know who Wes Anderson is. Luke Hammond, I noticed that Spanish bonds also jumped while German bonds were in demand. Yeah, Spanish bonds came off as well, so the yields jumped higher. Let's not forget, when yields go up, the prices go down, and the prices go down because people are selling, of course. But as I said, they rebounded towards the end of the day, which is unusual because you would think on a Friday that wouldn't happen. It would continue going down. So I think there was some kind of intervention there. So Jay Veloso, boa noite from Knightsbridge, from Kingsbridge. All right, Deutsche Bank, and I don't know. Deutsche Bank has dropped a bit this week. It's near just above 10 euros. We need to keep following that. So first, I want to go on over this first book, because I'm going to talk a little bit about central banks. And I found one passage here that I think is important, and I'll read it from Murray Rothbard, What Has Government Done to Our Money? It's on page 95, and it says, Government and Money. Many people believe that the free market, despite some admitted advantages, is a picture of disorder and chaos. Nothing is planned. Everything is haphazard. Government dictation, on the other hand, seems simple and orderly. Decrees are handed down and they are obeyed. In no area of the economy is this myth more prevalent than in the field of money. Seemingly, money, at least, must come under stringent government control, but money is the lifeblood of the economy. It is the medium of all transactions. If government dictates over money, it has already captured a vital command post for control over the economy and has secured a stepping stone for full socialism. We have seen that a free market in money, contrary to common assumption, would not be chaotic, that in fact, it would be a model of order and efficiency. So I think that's really important for people to learn about, that we don't need government and politicians to control our money through central banks. And when you look back at the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, they said that they would make the currency more elastic, that they would end crisis. And look at all the crises we've had with fiat money and central banking. So let's go to some more questions here. Luke Hammond, Manako, did you see the 10-year went into waterfall? Well, yeah, the 10-year yield has come off a bit. We're at 293 right now. Earlier this year, we broke through 263, which was a key resistance. We went up to 295, came back down to 263 to retest that, and then we went all the way up to 313 just a week or so, or 10 days ago, I'm not sure exactly. And now it's coming back down to that 293, 295 area. Yeah, there were comments from Russia and Saudi Arabia about oil. Oil had a big drop today. But I still, even if we don't go through 3% and bonds stabilize, I think the damage has been done because the 10-year yield has gone from 135 2 years ago to to around 3%. So it's more than doubled. Um, so I hope that answers your question, Luke. Jay Alegre, here in Spain, we have problems with corruption and the main party. Yeah, Jay Alegre, I read about it, that there are 30 people and they got over 350 years in prison, which is a good thing. At least you put people in prison for corruption. In other countries, like here in the UK and even the US, you never hear of, well, in the UK, they don't even ever mention the word corruption. That's one thing that I always find amazing, because there's so much corruption here, but we never hear the word. At least you guys, admit to it. Um, Luke Hammond, I would say that that's why gold is held. You mean because the yields have come off? I'm not sure if it's because of that, Luke, because ever since the yields have started going up, gold has been going up, from 2 years ago. So I'm not, I don't think the two are that related, in my opinion. Ujomo, hi Mario. Another article in Zero Hedge last night concerning LME owned by Hong Kong Exchange. Yeah, I talked about that this morning in my video. It looks like they want to price a lot of the base metals and the industrial metals in yuan as well. Yeah, that's just another nail in the coffin of the dollar system. Countries don't want to be as dependent on the dollar, because the U.S. is so belligerent. If other countries don't do what they want, they impose sanctions. They punish it's important individuals in that country and businessmen. So why would you want to keep dealing with the Americans if they're going to do that? And I don't blame other people. I missed his video this morning. It doesn't matter. I don't mind talking about it. James, the corruption here with local councils in Queensland, mayors and councillors suspended. Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. The amazing thing about the UK, though, is that you never hear the word corruption. It's almost like the mainstream media and the press are told not to mention it, probably because they're corrupt. I mean, you look at George Osborne, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer. He got a job with a big firm. I think it was BlackRock. BlackRock was the biggest investor in Uber, and in the UK, one of the big funds. And when he was in charge of the finances, they allowed Uber to set up in the UK. There's so much. I mean, John Major, the former prime minister, you had the first Iraq war under his watch. When he retired and lost the election, who did he go work for? For the Carlyle Group. What about Tony Blair? He works, I don't know if he still works for them, but when he left government and his prime ministership, he went to work for JP Morgan, and he was earning £2 million a year for going there a few days a week. There's even a story about all the junior bankers at JP Morgan. They used to bring him cups of tea, and that's all he did, drink a cup of tea. But they don't call that corruption. They just call them advisor. They become advisors to these companies, but it's payback. It's corruption. Dem Runner One, hi Monaco. I really enjoy your channel, but I have one complaint. I've had to buy 4 books in the last month, and my bookshelf is getting full. Lol. Keep up the great work. Yeah, my wife complains about that as well, because I'm always buying new books, because I like reading. That's one of the ways to learn about things, reading. But that's one of my weaknesses, and a lot of times I buy I've got at the moment 2 books here that I'm reading at the same time, and I haven't finished either of them. MRJI 78. Hi, Mario. From Dublin. I watched Martin Armstrong being interviewed by Greg Hunter. He says US dollar will strengthen a lot. And when the crisis hits, soon we could see 10% rates. Do you agree? Yeah, I assume you mean 10% US rates, 10-year yield. I'm not sure if it's going to be that quick, the move up in interest rates. If that were to happen, the whole system would implode because we got so much debt. So I've looked at what government has done to our money, and I think to understand central banks, we need to read that first. And now I've got Ron Paul's "And the Fed," which is a good book as well, and I'll read from the Economic Case, chapter 13. And he says, it amazes me how society has advanced technologically since the Industrial Revolution and through the benefits of great brilliance in physics, chemistry, computers, medicine, and electronics, and aerospace. Nations, even with a partial understanding of how free markets work, have benefited tremendously from the abundance created. Yet with all this knowledge, few understand some of the simplest economic truths regarding money. And he says, for generations, we have been brainwashed about the necessity of having a central bank to give us a currency that is elastic. And so that's another good book. And I mean, they don't teach these things to people in schools. And that's why I'm doing these videos. And that's because I enjoy talking about it, and hopefully I'll wake people up. I'm not, of course, I know don't reach millions of people, but I started out with 0 subscribers just over 2 years ago. So now it's getting there. And I think, and I'm going to bring a quote here that's quite interesting. Look at some quotes from some like founding fathers. And like, this is the Henry Ford quote that I really like. And it says, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." So that was Henry Ford. And one thing I like to say as well, because this topic of central banking and like money and debt, a lot of people call you names for it. And a lot of people who talk about this, they bring in different groups of people, religions, ethnic groups, and I think that's what they want us to do. That's what the people in charge want us to do. They want us like blaming each other, but all we need to really blame is the system, and that's why I don't really like to touch upon ethnic religion, because people of all walks of all religious backgrounds, all races, or all colors are involved in this central banking scam. I mean, look at Zimbabwe. That's in Africa, and they had hyperinflation. So it doesn't really matter what color you are. That's all I wanted to say. Let's just focus on the mechanism, which is really one that is basically creating money out of thin air, which if we could do, we'd have a lot of power, wouldn't we? But these people, they've had it, especially the Bank of England. Since 1694, they were given a royal charter. And here's another quote that I found from the founder of the Bank of England, William Patterson. And this is what he said from the founder of the Bank of England. He said, "The bank hath benefit of interest in all monies which it creates out of nothing." So, how much more clear can it be that it's like a corrupt system, and it should be exposed? Unless we keep talking about it, making it people aware about it, we won't get anywhere. We need to really get this message out there, and that's why I'm doing this today, and that's why I talk a lot about central banking. El Tomo, thanks for the donation on Super Chat, El Tomo. And yeah, you're welcome. I don't mind keeping people informed, and I enjoy doing this. Um, let's see some questions. Will Nichols, if the bond market continues to slide and the new Italian government becomes belligerent, some US commentators say that investors will run to the dollar as EU implodes and interest rates rocket. Well, right now, they not necessarily. They will maybe run some to the dollar, but they will also run to German government bonds. Today, I noticed that even UK government bonds went up because people probably ran from Spanish and Italian bonds to German bonds to gilts, even to the French bonds. Yeah, the euro will suffer, but yeah, the Spanish and Italian interest rates are skyrocketing, but German interest rates aren't. So it's more, it's not as clear cut as that, I would say. And I would say that U.S. interest rates already have been going up. You know, the U.S. 10-year is around 3%. The German 10-year is below 1%, which is really, really historically very wide. Uh, MRR Iman 74. Hi, Mario. What would happen if EOS turned out to be a big scam? Would that crash Bitcoin price to have some EOS and other cryptos? Um, I personally don't think EOS is a scam. If I've been following it very closely, it's the only ICO which is actually is going to be launched by the community that has grown around it for the last 12 months. It's actually not going to be launched by Block One, which who drew up the the software and the blockchain. So I don't think it is a scam. And even if it was, I probably wouldn't hurt Bitcoin, but I don't think it is a scam. Uh, not only this video, spread the message. Yeah, I mean, we need to keep, you guys also need to help me by sharing your videos, by going on my channel every day on YouTube. Because I'm hearing that YouTube is actually when you subscribe to channels now, they're not letting you know that the channels you subscribe to have come out with new videos. But I can assure you, I do a video every day. Maybe once in a while I won't do one on Saturday or Sunday, but every day the week I do a video. So make sure you go and watch my videos, share it as much as possible with different, how can I say, social media platforms that you are signed up to. That would really help. Yeah, Deutsche Bank is looking on the edge again. I agree, and I guess the all the stuff in Europe doesn't help. I think the Germans have lent a lot of money to like the peripheral countries like Italy, Spain. I saw that Greek yields have gone up as well. Great 68 spread. What message? Well, the title of this live stream, maybe you just joined, is Central Banking, the Courage to Plunder. And why did I call it the Courage to Plunder? Well, because Ben Bernanke wrote his memoirs and he called it The Courage to Act, a memoir of a crisis and its aftermath. So Ben Bernanke, uh, helicopter Ben, he thinks that it's courageous to print money out of thin air to save a system that they created that's like completely unsustainable. So that's why I named it The Courage to Plunder, because that's what central bankers do, because they're allowed to print money out of thin air. We have to explain to people that when you borrow money from the bank. They actually didn't take money from your neighbor, who deposit money there and lent it to you. They don't really act as intermediaries. They're just creating fake value out of nothing, which you have to work for and pay for. So that's why you need to try not to deal with the banks, in my opinion. All right, let's see. David Montrose, how is Iceland doing after getting out of the central banking system? I don't know if they got out of the central banking system. I still think they got a central bank. I think what they did is they punished their bankers. They put them in jail. They let the system, they let the system collapse, and I think they've done well. I haven't really looked recently, but yeah, if you're not, their economy rebounded quite a bit. Shane Sturgis, I think the Bank of England has no choice but to lower interest rates or print more money. We taxpayer pay too much to keep the royal family and a few other rich people while British workers just get poorer. Uh, it's a lot more than just paying for the royal family. I think it's all about the accumulated debts that the UK has and the US. And the way they do this is through crisis. They pump and dump central banks. The other thing that central banks do and is to finance wars. And wars, what do wars do? They cost a lot of money, aside from all the human cost. They cost a lot of money. The last time, and then you had the financial crisis of '08. The banks they indebted the public even more to bail out the banks. So yeah, I don't think, I'm not defending the royal family, but actually they probably don't, they cost a fraction of what, um, you know, uh, the debt is really. I'm not saying that defending them or anything, but I think what central banks allow is division between, you know, people domestically and internationally. And how do they divide people internationally? Through wars, unnecessary wars. Uh, Domestically, they divide people through politics, left and right. So you've got the warfare state and the welfare state. Uh, I don't agree, and we shouldn't have a central bank. Before 1694, there was no central bank in the UK. Before 1914, there was no central bank in the US from 1837. So we don't need central banks. Central banks, we need a free market in money. And what the purpose of the government, if it's going to have any function in money, is what the US used to have. You could go, let's say you were a gold miner or a silver miner, you found gold, you went to the local mint, and they minted your gold coin for you. With a, they did take a little bit of the gold as a cost, but that's all the function of government, was to mint the coins. And you could use any other gold coin in the US. It didn't have to be American coins, because gold is gold anywhere. So Iceland also didn't join the EU. No, they didn't. Um, but yeah, let's see. Pitt Meyer, free Tommy Robinson. What do you think of the bond buying today, Dan Mann? Well, I think we have to look at Italy and Spain. I think that's why U.S. Treasuries went up and yields went down. But so did German bonds. They went up and their yields went down. It's more a flight from Italian bonds and Spanish bonds. And I think that's why Treasuries also went up. Don't forget, Italian government bond market is the third biggest in the world after the US, Japan. So if Italian bonds go down, that's going to be a big thing. And there's going to be a lot of money getting away from Italian bonds into supposedly safer bonds. Luke Hammond, talk about penny pinching. Well, yeah, I mean that's one way to be, to be able to save money. You have to penny pinch, uh, but and I think people are not encouraged to do that anymore, because if they don't have the money, people are encouraged to borrow. They don't save anymore, so there isn't really too much penny pinching anymore. People don't care. Uh, I don't think everyone is involved in that, but that's part of the game, I think. Uh, Belgium isn't even a country. Well, Belgium has a 53% income tax rate uh, for singles without kids. It's just criminal. Yeah, I mean, taxation in Western Europe, even in the UK, we've got 40% tax rates. We've got tax on everything in this country as well. You go to the shops, there's VAT, everything. So I mean, it's not just Belgium. And in Belgium, there are a lot. There are a lot of people who there are ways not to pay tax in Belgium. So, but yeah, it's really the thing is that taxation and central banking. I've just there's another one here that I've recommended. I'll go to this book here. Sorry, I don't know why we're talking about Belgium and Nigel Farage. This is about central banking, so I'm not going to get involved in that. This is another book that I recommend about central banking. It's the World Order: Our Secret Rulers by Eustace Mullins. Eustace Mullins, and I'll read one of the sections from it that will talk about taxation. So this is about chapter 2, the Rothschilds. And it says here, and I quote, in its issue of December 19th, 1983, Forbes magazine noted that half of Germany's top 10 banks are Frankfurt-based. The modern world's financial system, an updating of the Babylonian monetary system of taxes and money creation, was perfected in Frankfurt on Main. That's Frankfurt on Main. That's the river it's in, Frankfurt, Hesse, in the province of Hesse. Meyer Amschel Bauer, later Rothschild, discovered that although loans to farmers and small business could be profitable, the real profits lay in making loans to governments. So that's another reason why we have taxes, because if the bankers are going to create money out of thin air through the central banks, the only way to make it worth something is to impose taxes on people and force them to pay those taxes with the money. So, and how do you earn that money? Through hard work and through effort, through ideas. So that's how they suck. That's how parasitical the central banking system is, because they need to tax you, or else their money is worthless. It's not real money. It's not gold. And why do I say gold? Because it takes effort to find gold. There's a lot of labor, a lot of prospecting, a lot of resources you need, a lot of energy. But central banks, they just write a book entry, or nowadays they type a book entry into their computer system. Okay, let's see. Marek Sushanek. Hi, Mario from Norway. Hi, Marek. Nice to see you here. Let's see some more. GR 1501, you get tax on your earnings, and then you get tax on when you spend it, and you get taxed as well when you die, and if you leave anything to your heirs as well, they tax that money as if it wasn't enough. And you, unless you put your money also in a tax-free account, like in the UK, if you buy bonds and you earn an income, they tax you on that. They even tax you on your pension. If you have an income on your pension, it's just they tax you on drinks now. They tax you on alcohol. I know they're, alcohol and cigarettes. I know they're vices, but still in the UK, and I don't smoke, but the price of cigarettes, 90% of it is tax. Big Daddy, I believe the Federal Reserve has robbed me of my retirement by forcing interest rates to remain so low. The pension fund is broke. I can't earn any interest, and they want to push me to stocks. Yeah, that's what they want to do. And the other thing as well, the reason they've kept interest rates so low is because the government, and other people have so much debt, and they can't afford to pay the interest. So I guess, let's say, for example, if you're able to save $1 million and retire with $1 million, back in the early 90s, late 80s, you could get like maybe 7% interest. So you'd be living on $70,000 a year. Now, I think it's probably like 10 or 20,000 at the most, which is quite amazing. Hi, Mary. Do you think where we are today was all planned from the start of central banking, or have they lost control through greed? Uh, I think it was all planned. Yeah, the pump and dump, and pump and dump. Pump and dump. And the richer they get, and that's why we have more and more, fewer and fewer people are owning most of the wealth. And if they do lose control and it all comes down, I think they'll be prepared for it, Gary. They will be, they will survive. So they don't care, actually, because they control the game and they know when it's going to happen. You can bet they will have all the hard assets. They'll have the gold and silver to protect themselves. They'll have the private security. They'll have the bunkers. They'll be okay. So, Rocky Balboa, any chance the current system can be reformed? No, without a catastrophic crisis. No, the system is never going to be reformed. This system, as I just said to Gary, was designed to be as it is. That's what most people need to understand. The system was designed to fail for the whole public. It's not failing for the very rich. They're becoming richer and richer, and the rest of the public is becoming poorer, poorer and poorer. So it has succeeded. Harper, where's Billy? Oh, he's upstairs with my wife. She went up to bed fairly early. She's reading, and he's gone up with her. He was in the video this morning. Let's see. Oh, just want to remind people as well that I've signed up for Super Chat. And if you would like to make a donation, you can here through the Super Chat. I have to admit, Facebook is continuously censoring my videos in the last week, even though I'm still earning some from it. I'd appreciate it. So, some questions. Patrick, hi, Mario. Struggling to understand cryptocurrencies. Any recommendations on an introduction to get started? Well, I just read. Yeah, just you can find a lot of information on YouTube, about cryptocurrencies. Um, Also check how the blockchain works. That will explain to you a bit. And that's how you should start, maybe. How does the blockchain work? Uh, or like Michael Holiday is saying, maybe Google Andreas Antonopoulos. I guess he's a big blockchain guy. Also Google maybe Dan Larimer about EOS. how he's got a lot of good videos and interviews. GR at 1501, Mario, do you think they are planning for a date that will eventually come? Um, how will we know? I don't think we will know unless we're insiders. I mean, I've heard some people mention uh, July 20th or 21st. I think his name is Gary Swing. I'm not sure, but these are all guesses. So, what about another book that I think is great to read about central banks? People need to read is I've had this book, let's see, for quite a while now. When did I buy this one? Uh, yeah, this is 2003 edition. So I've had this for a while. The Creature from Jekyll Island from G. Edward Griffin. You know, a lot of what he talks about is what Eustace Mullins talks about. So I highly recommend people read this about central banking. And I did take a, yeah, you know, I won't go over any parts of the book, but basically he explains how the private bankers got together to draw up the Federal Reserve Act in 1910. So only got 137 people so far. I don't understand. Is that Farsi or Iran? Hi. Um, so no more questions. Thanks, Patrick, for the donation through Super Chat. Fahid Ullah, when do you think? When do you start hating central banks? When did you start hating? Well, I don't hate. I don't like. I don't like the word hate. Uh, I just don't. I don't like the institution. I don't hate them, but when I started learning about free markets, and when I started investing in gold, when I started reading through the Austrian School of Economics and how money is set up. Before that, I used to work in the city of London, and I continued working there, but people, we just looked at money. We didn't ask any questions. So yeah, it was through looking, about free markets, about monetary history, and then you understand how they create money out of thin air, and how you don't really need central banks to create money. All other parts, most of the other parts of the economy are free market and private. Why should central banks get a monopoly from the government? That's why I don't like central banks, because they're allowed, they have the power to create things out of nothing, and I think that's wrong. Michael Holiday, how are you doing? How are you going to spend helicopter money? I'm buying long-term food storage personally, if it comes to that. Yeah, I haven't done prepping like that. Um, I've actually experienced a currency collapse when I lived in Brazil back in the late 80s, late 80s. And yeah, the currency collapsed overnight in Brazil, and shelves in the supermarkets were very empty. I think my father was able to get some meat from a friend of his who had a farm. So he was able to get some stuff from that guy. But I don't think it's going to be, if there is a collapse, a hyperinflation, I think it will be hard for 3 to 6 months, maybe a bit more. But I think they can fix things up again, maybe. But also living near the countryside could help. Or I personally am not a farmer, so I wouldn't think about buying a small farm, but maybe buy a property near the countryside where you have access to farmers. That's not a bad thing. And of course, having physical gold or more like physical silver, because gold will be too valuable to exchange for some crops or like some cattle or livestock. Uh, Grim Fandango, I'm planning to buy lots of spam and tin chicken. Luke Hammond, Mario, do you think the US would ever consider a domestic crypto dollar uh, as a sort of phase reset? Luke, I don't care what the government or the US would consider, or any government would consider. I think I'm going to stick to free market money, which is physical gold and silver. I think it's an oxymoron that governments can create cryptocurrencies in the blockchain, because governments are not open, they're not transparent, and they cheat, they're corrupt. So I wouldn't trust United States government crypto, nor UK government, nor any government's crypto. They might use the blockchain or the technology to transfer their fiat money, but nothing would change. It wouldn't be any good. 9,000 banks failed in the Great Depression. Yeah, that's right. Um, to Manolo 3, you should be a guest on the Kaiser Report. You could reach a bigger audience then. Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind being on the Kaiser Report. I like Max Kaiser, but he hasn't contacted me. So, David BB, have you used cryptocurrency for any purchases? How do you see the use of case of Bitcoin? Well, David BB, I do have a Wirex card, which I received a couple weeks ago, and I loaded it up with some Bitcoin, and I exchanged some of it into pounds in the app. So indirectly, I can't spend the cryptocurrencies. So the Wirex card, I've had it for a while, but it was canceled the beginning of the year in January. Visa cut them off, but it's back. But one day, maybe we're going to use cryptocurrencies to pay directly. People will accept cryptocurrencies. I bought a year or so ago, and before I used to buy the what's his name, Cliff High's Alta Report. He used to accept Bitcoin, so I've paid for that directly. Did you have a sense of warning during the currency collapse you experienced? Yeah, things were really bad in Brazil. It didn't affect my family that much. My dad financially, because he was a clever guy. He didn't have much money in the banks in Brazil. But one example of how lucky or unlucky you can be was my uncle. He's a doctor, and the day before the currency collapsed and all the money in the bank became worthless, he exchanged properties. He bought a property for his new office, medical office, and he exchanged contracts the day before the collapse. So he got the property, and the seller got the money from him in the bank. And the next day it collapsed. So he was very lucky. He got rid of that money the day before. The guy who bought his property, it was really unfortunate because he was left with the old currency, which was reset. So yeah, you can't really tell unless you're an insider. Um, maybe do some farming on the golf course. Yeah, you never know. I think during the war here, World War II, a lot of the courses were used for farming. Let's hope we don't have a war. Let's see more questions. Will Nichols, on a university tour in 1981, we met a farmer who bought 5,000 acres of prime land in Hampshire for 1 guinea in 1933. 1 guinea is like a sovereign, isn't it, Will? Yeah, that's amazing. That's why I think a lot of assets are way overvalued right now. It would be great to see a collapse. Marek Sushanek, thanks for the donation on Super Chat. Some Norwegian krona. I appreciate it. Big Daddy, and any advice on how to store silver safely? I don't want to get burglarized. I don't trust bank vaults. Try to hide it as well as possible. Unfortunately, nothing is safe. Patrick, hey everyone, let's get behind Mario. He's the best communicator in this sphere. Thank you, Patrick. And thanks for the donation so far. I've signed up to Super Chat. The other day I did a live stream and I earned quite a bit. And that helps because my normal videos now are getting really censored. S. Walker, Putin is in the media moving away from the dollar. Yeah, he is. I mean, a few weeks ago, I made a video about it. I think it was his first speech to the Duma after he got inaugurated as president. And he said that they are accumulating gold and they're going to continue to accumulate gold because he thinks it's a way to make them more sovereign economically. And it's not just for countries that need to accumulate gold to become sovereign. It's for us as well, for individuals. And the old saying goes that we need to be our own central bank. Shy Thinker videos. Will the OPEC and Russia increase in output bring the final collapse to Venezuela? Well, I'm not sure. I mean, Venezuela, even when oil prices have been going up and they're still collapsing. It could, but and this is just talk. This thing, we could get a headline on next Monday saying that Russia and Saudi Arabia, they could deny this comment, this rumor, and oil could go back up. So, I wouldn't read too much into it's a big move today, but I still think the trend is higher for oil prices. Venezuela, even if oil goes to 100, it's still a basket case. I heard now that people are using electricity to mine Bitcoin because a lot of the electricity now is free because it's so screwed up that people are getting it for free. Go figure. John Corner, thanks for the donation. Thanks for the info on EOS. Had a bit of trouble getting after we spoke. No problems. Oh, you're welcome. I don't recommend people buy EOS on the exchange. They should do it through the EOS.io. And then just send the Ethereum and then claim after the period is over. That's what I've been doing. I want to buy a bit more EOS before next Friday, which is the last day. I'm waiting. I'm going to do it next week. And I bought some, I think, yesterday, some more. So I'm accumulating. Let's see. V. Bjorn Gritton. The mass gas shortage in Brazil is spreading. Locals are waiting in super long lines to get whatever amount of gas they can. Seems the MSM are not really saying much about what is happening. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that, V. Bjorn. I was in contact with a very old friend in Brazil recently about something financial, and he said that the situation there isn't great. But I guess and maybe this is why also countries like Brazil, Russia are getting more and more away from the dollar, even though Brazil is still really tied to the dollar. Most Brazilians who do have some money, they actually think in dollars. So I don't think they'll be thinking in yuan that soon. But cryptocurrencies, I think, are also going to be big in Brazil. I think that could be a big thing. You know, the population in Brazil is 200 million. No, yeah, he's the cheerleader. Thumbs up, everybody. Fight back by showing the love. Hit the like button. Yeah, apparently, if you you get a lot of likes. It helps spread the video. To Manolo 3, Europe is considering a dropping dollar in oil trades with Iran. Would that hurt the dollar? Yeah, definitely, it will hurt the dollar. Um, and the other reason why they have to consider that is that they can't. You know, U.S. is going to have sanctions on Iran, and if you pay them with dollars, Iran won't be able to use those dollars because the U.S. won't recognize their dollars. So what's the point? Big Daddy Mario, hope you become an EOS millionaire. Remember us little people when you make it. Well, you could become a millionaire as well, Big Daddy. It's not too late to buy it now. Um, and the other thing is, well, I'm not thinking about becoming an EOS millionaire. I actually like EOS for the philosophy of it. Dan Larimer is a Ron Paul fan. He's a free market libertarian, and he truly believes that you know EOS blockchain will be revolutionary. Uh, and am I saying I believe that 100% that it will happen? No, but I think he's got the right. His heart is there for it. I know there's a lot of doubts about how many block producers they have, that it's too centralized. But yeah, I'm looking at EOS as real estate in the blockchain, in the internet. You know, a lot of people think that the internet is going to be on the blockchain. Um, so I think EOS will be like owning real estate on the blockchain. So I'm thinking more of as a long-term thing, and that I could actually be earning some income off having some internet blockchain real estate. That's how I'm looking at EOS. Petrodollar is a joke. It's irrelevant. It's less than 7% of dollar trade. What do you mean by dollar trade, Will? Is that I mean, I know most countries still use the dollar to buy oil, so I'm not sure uh, why it's irrelevant still. Maybe it will become more irrelevant as the yuan becomes more important and the euro. John Hill, gold going to 1400 by June 14th. John, I will admit, like 6 weeks ago, almost 2 months ago, I thought gold would be going up by now more. I saw like a flag and it didn't work out. You know, technical analysis doesn't work all the time. Then we came back down and we've now hit like a trend line that we've had for over 12 months. And we hit the bottom of that trend line. It bounced right off it. And I drew a line with other rises we've had, and I kind of get why you're looking at 1400 by June 14th. It's possible. It looks like we bottom now, just above 1280 in gold. Let's have a look, see where gold is right now. Yeah, we're at 1301. So gold's held up well above 1300 today or this week. Uh, Over here, are the Russians minting a precious metal silver ruble coin for circulation? Is that the first precious metal coin put into circulation in the world? Well, it would be for about 50 years. I think a lot of countries in Europe up until 1968, they had silver coins. The US had silver coins until 1964. So they wouldn't be the first. They would be the first in about 50 years. I have no proof that the Russians are doing that. Maybe they are. I saw an article a few months ago about the fact that they're buying a lot of silver bullion, like silver bars. That's possible. Let's have a look. Fadia Ula, what do you think of Glint? Yeah, I have a Glint card, and I put some fiat money in there a few months ago when I received the card, and I exchanged it for the gold. But to be honest, I don't feel like spending the gold, so I don't think it's going to work. Even though it gives you access to spending gold, do you really want to spend gold when you know gold's going to go up? So it's good though. If gold were to shoot up to $200 next week, yeah, maybe I'll spend a little bit of my gold that I've got on glint, but I still prefer physical. And I'll show you. Yeah, I've got the card. I won't show you the number and everything, but I've got the glint card. Never used it though. I've got a few grams in there. And so, yeah, I think it's a good. I know the guy who started Glint, Ben Davies. Um, he used to work in the city for a bank. He was a bond trader as well, and he became a gold bug. I think he worked for Barclays or HSBC, one of the big UK banks, and now he's got like a gold fund. Ben Davies. I think he's a credible guy. But I would, yeah, maybe use it to see how it works. But I wouldn't, just if I wanted to buy gold and start buying gold, I recommend people, if they've never bought gold and they want to get involved into gold, to go actually buy a coin. And then you understand why gold is so, precious and valuable. You've got to hold it. This is one of my favorite coins. It's a buffalo. It's a U.S. 1 ounce coin, if you can see here. Uh, it's from 2007, I think. It's one of the few U.S. coins that's 24 karat. So I wouldn't buy too many of those because you want something less pure. Because the purer the gold coin is, the more damage you can do to it. You want like the 22 karat coins like sovereigns or the 90%. Michael Church at Mario, the US $half silver content through 1968. Well, yeah, that was 50%. It was 90% until 1964. And I think from 65 to 68, it was 50%. And after 68, they took out all the silver. But in Europe, I think countries like Switzerland, Holland, and Germany, they had like the standard in Europe, I think was, I'm not sure, it was like 88% or 90% the silver coins. Blockchain gold, another way for central banks. Well, let me just get this straight. When I hear blockchain and central banks, to me, it's like, doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't trust it. Oh, it was 40%. Sorry. Yeah. I think 50% was in the UK. The UK up until 1919, sterling silver was 925, all the coins. And then after the war, they cut to 50%. The US was 40% after 64. But the UK, they cut to like 50% from 1919 and then until 1947. And after 1947, the UK couldn't afford silver anymore, so there's no more silver in the coins. Yeah, that's why the best thing I would say is to buy 64 or before for the US coins if you want to have silver. According to the Financial Times, Gordon Brown was right to sell Britain's 400 tons of gold. While the Financial Times is a mouthpiece for the central bankers, so of course they would say that. And there are a lot of rumors that Gordon Brown sold the gold just to help the bullion banks because they were short squeezed. So he pre-announced that he was going to sell half the reserves, and the market just tanked, and they covered their shorts. And yeah, so that's. But I don't really respect. DFT is another publication that is a, that you can read that a bit, but it's you know, I made a video about an editorial. I'll bring this up now. It's good you mentioned the FT. Uh, it's an editorial that I read in the FT from April 16th, 2004. Thanks, Marek, again for the donation in kronas. I was so outraged by this editorial. It was still when I worked in the city and I was reading the FT on the platform, waiting for my train early in the morning. And it says, going gold. And it says here, the pointlessness of holding bullion continues to sink in. So this was in 2004 when gold was at $400. So how well has the FT done in predicting how useful gold is? Not very well. We're $900 higher, and we're still in a bear market. I did a video about this a couple of weeks ago, actually, about this. And they say, I read here, whatever the speed, the direction is clear. Gold is on its way out as an investment and a reserve asset. 3 cheers for that. So that's why that's why I don't recommend the FT nor any. This is fake news. So, and I kept that, and I even put some plastic around it. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to show you guys is some old banknotes, or in this case, this is one I bought from, because when I worked in the city, I used to go to New York once in a while on business, and I went to a Stax, is a rare coins shop in New York, and I bought, this is a silver certificate, United States, and it's from 1923. So here you go. Interesting. And it says, this certifies that there has been deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America $1 silver, payable on demand to the bearer, on the bearer to the bearer on demand. Can you see that? It says $1 silver, and this is in 1923, right? And one thing that I found interesting is that if you look at this other one that I bought, this is called a silver certificate as well, but it's from 1935. So what did we have in 1933? Even though silver is still used as money, they had, they confiscated the gold. They even changed the back of the dollar bill in 1933. They put the New World Order symbol there. In 1923, there was no pyramid at the end of the on the other side. And the interesting thing is, if you look at this one, it says $1, while this one says $1 silver. That's a big difference, because that's getting people to think that a dollar is just a dollar and that it's not silver. So I think that was really, they do it really slowly. I know silver only went out of circulation in 1968, but you can see that they're already changing the way they look at it. In 1923, they used to call it $1 silver. In 1935, they were just calling it $1, you see, even though it was payable in silver. So I thought that was interesting to show to you guys. Oh, hi, Marek. Thank you very much for that. I knew, the Norwegian krona. I knew the exchange rate, roughly what it was. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. T. Hamilton. Also, Marek, what are your thoughts on government simply mandating that all bullion and coin sales are subject to large percentage tax as inflation rises? I'll get the tar and feathers ready if so. Yeah, in the US, they could do that. In the UK, they would have to change the law because the sovereign and any coin of the realm that is a gold is considered legal tendered, so you can't tax money. But what they could do in the UK as well, that they did in the 60s and 70s, is limit the amount of gold coins you can buy a year. So that's why you should try to accumulate it before they do it. As before they might be able to do it. What else? Eki Rasha, is it wrong to say that today's economy is a scam, a Ponzi scheme? No, yeah, I think it's wrong. It partly wrong. I think the monetary system is a scam and a Ponzi scheme, and what I would say is that it distorts the economy, Eki. It creates businesses and behavior that are irresponsible and that are not sustainable. So yeah, it's part. I mean, even when you have free market and sound money, which we haven't had that much really in the past, but it has happened. You do get scams. You do get a lot of credit. The only thing is when you have a sound money base, and if you don't have central banks that allow a large creation of credit, if you have an anchor, the credit booms and the malinvestments, as the Austrians call it, get smaller. So I think every economy, I don't purport to think that the world will be perfect if we go on to sound money and honest money and free market money, but it will be better. There will always be scams. Unfortunately, that's the way human nature works. Universal Vibes TV, Detective Maneko 64, very interesting. Yeah, about the dollar, the silver certificates. Yeah, I was looking at those today, and I hadn't noticed that they actually changed that. It used to be one silver dollar, and then they used to call it $1. So I think it's to erase people's idea that the dollar is silver. You see. So that eventually they'll be able to just to print it. Over here, do you know Greg Hunter, Greg Marino? Are you scheduled to be interviewed by any YouTube site? Great variety info on your live stream. Well, I've listened to Greg Hunter and Greg Manarino for the last few years, but no, I haven't been contacted by any of them to do any interviews. Aki Rashke, thanks. You're welcome. Paper money has a value. The dollar is worth 0.04 worth today. Yeah, gold and silver, no counterparty risk. That's right. There is a risk, of course. You get robbed. That's why you need to keep it safe. Sajir Ashraf, Monaco, why USA wants to invade North Korea? Trump has warned it's related with Petro Yuan. I'm not sure. I was reading a little bit about that today, that the deal was off, but some people think that they're still talking. But and the reason why the deal was, they were supposed to meet in Singapore is because the North Koreans didn't want to do what the Americans wanted to do. I'm not sure. I don't know if he wants to invade North Korea though. Alex Alexander, I heard places in Brazil are having fuel shortages. Yeah, I heard from someone here on the chat earlier. I didn't know that. T. Hamilton, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed MBS has ordered that all government contracts cease being awarded to German companies as an aggressive punitive measure for Germany's plan to stick by the Iran nuclear deal. I'm not surprised. Saudi Arabia and Iran are very big enemies. I think, yeah, the Saudis are Sunni and the Iranians are Shia. And the other thing the Saudis don't like about Iran is that Iran, their current regime since 1979, they deposed a monarchy, the Shah of Iran, and what's Saudi Arabia, a monarchy. So um, that's very interesting. I mean, that's big news. Um, Things are getting really disruptive. A lot of distractions. There is a lot of distractions out there, and they want us to be distracted. But for me, the most important thing, question of our times is central banking, and that we need to learn that they're big scams. Uh, they're parasitical institutions that benefit very few people, and we need to get rid of them. Uh, yeah, geopolitics is important, but let's not forget about central banks. I'm Bakartu. Hi, Mario. So, what do you think will happen when African nations start heavily to use cryptocurrencies? Well, they might be better off, if they can use cryptocurrencies. I guess the only thing they need to improve their technology and their infrastructure, I would say. But it could be a good thing. Gary, still, are central bankers more powerful than governments? Yeah, definitely. And the people behind the central banks as well, who we don't really know who they are. We have an idea who they are. Well, the old saying from Amschel Bauer Rothschild, uh, let me control the money supply of a country and I care not who makes the laws. So there you go. Vbjorn Gritzen, Ukraine economist, says if the globalization con come to an end, only those countries that have large amounts of both renewable and non-renewable resources will be able to grow, and the rest will have problem. Not too sure. I'm not too sure about that. Um, let's see someone else here that I haven't answered a question for. Real Kuchik Byakua, X22 report thinks the summit did happen, but Trump is bamboozling the media. Well, I read something from Joel Skousen, World Affairs Brief. He heard that Trump met some North Korean representatives in a hotel in New York last week, and the meeting didn't go well, and so they pulled the meeting in Singapore. Yeah, I like the Dave from the X22 report. I like listening to him. He's got a lot of subscribers, a lot more than I do. Um, Dave. The only thing about Dave, I would say, it would be nice to see him. You always only hear his voice, but I think he's a good guy. Richard McCorkindale, Iran deposed the monarchy with the CIA's help. You'd think the Saudi would be pissed at the US. Yeah, it's true, but and what I heard as well is that the Shah of Iran was thinking of backing his currency with silver, and he was working together with the Hunt brothers. Married, David BB, married. Do you have total control over this chat record? Can you delete it all and protect uh, our privacy? Well, I could. Like when I finish doing the chat, what happens is that it gets uploaded into the YouTube channel, and I could choose to delete it. But if I delete it, I think I won't earn the super chat. But yeah, I could delete it, so I do have control over it. Let's see, Jeff Corkle, who owns the Bank of England? What's your thoughts? Well, Jeff, I think it's interesting you asked me that question because I looked into what the Bank of England is. It actually has a royal charter, and all a royal charter means is before you had registered companies. If you wanted to form a company, you had to get a royal charter. Uh, I think, and the Bank of England still has a royal charter. So for those people who say that the Bank of England is government owned, that's not true because it still has the royal charter. I would say it's all the big landed aristocrats in the UK, like the Duke of Marlborough, people like that that own the Bank of England. Um, the Rothschilds probably do indirect also own the Bank of England, shares in the Bank of England. I'd say the royal family were given shares, and people in Europe that we don't even know as well. Very old money. I don't think there's much. There's any secondary market in those shares. So yeah, it's definitely a hybrid. When people say that it's government owned, that it was nationalized, that's just that's not totally true. That's just how can I say, a head fake. So because if it wasn't a company, it wouldn't have a royal charter anymore. Because before you were able to create limited companies in the UK, you had to ask for royal charters. So a royal charter is just like a company. Uh, let's see. David Buckner, what do you think about Mr. Salente? Gerald Salente? Yeah, I like Gerald Salente. The trends research, he gets a lot of things right, but I also think, doesn't get everything right all the time. But he does get a little bit angry, but in a way, I can understand why he gets angry and outraged. We could ask Soros about the BOE. Well, not sure. I mean, one interesting thing about the Bank of England, because used to walk past the Bank of England a lot of times when I worked in the city, when I was walking to my office. I didn't work all the time there, but near there. But there's when I used to go under near Lothbury Street. There's like an arch. You go under an arch at the Bank of England and you cross the road, and on top of like inside this, it's like a little arch gazebo style thing. You got uh, SPQR, which is the Roman initials on the Bank of England. So they've got that, Senatus Populares Romanos, SPQR, on the Bank of England. So I would say maybe the Vatican has shares in the Bank of England as well. Maybe some of the papal families, a lot of the old black nobility from Italy have shares in the Bank of England. Who knows? That's not what royal charter means at all. Royal charter means it's controlled by the people of Great Britain. No, that's not right, Jamie. I read today, actually, if anything, the royal charter is controlled by the Privy Council, which is run by the Queen. So if the Bank of England want to change their charter, they need to go to the Privy Council. And I read today that a Privy Council was basically what people used to do if they wanted to form like a company, was have a royal charter. Have you ever watched the Four Horsemen documentary? I think I have. Maybe I should watch it again. Maybe it was a long time ago. Was Gaddafi killed because he was planning to issue gold-backed dinar? Yeah, I think so. That was one of the reasons he was trying to use the gold he had to help the sub-Saharan African countries. I think that definitely one of the reasons. So yeah, I've been here for almost an hour and a half. Uh, I really appreciate all the people who came for the live stream, who asked questions, who donated through super chat. I really appreciate it, especially in this time of censorship by YouTube. It's a way for me to earn a bit more income. You know, I would be earning a lot more if I wasn't censored because my volume, uh, the viewership is going up, the subscribership is going up, and I advise people because I make videos every day to check out my channel every day and for videos because I hear now that YouTube is not publicizing you for people who watch YouTube that there are people that they subscribe to are making new videos. They're not doing that, so you need to be careful. I do make videos every day. Yeah, thanks everyone. I wish you all a great weekend. I'll be making more videos this weekend. I will be playing golf tomorrow morning, but probably in the afternoon I'll make a video. And thanks for the presence here. And I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Take care. Bye.